Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mindful Marathon Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I'm a pediatrician and a run coach and founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a very special guest with me for a repeat appearance, Dr. Marion McCrary. She is a primary care internal medicine physician in North Carolina. And when we left off last time, Dr. Marion was starting to train for a half marathon and shared some mindset tips about how to navigate the ups and downs of running. And it was a really popular episode. So she's back today, and I can't wait to hear how the training is going. So welcome back, Dr. Marion.
Thank you so much for having me back. I know we had so much fun talking the first time. We're like, we got to do some more of this, and so it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm still training, so I'm excited about that. The plan is still in place. There's a half marathon in my community in mid-October. So on October 17th, everybody cheer for me from wherever you are. Woohoo! And it's really exciting. I've actually done this race previously, but they have a 5-miler and a half marathon. And I've always done the 5-mile. And there's about a spot where you get like 3 miles in, you got to go this way if you're the 5-miler and this way if you're the half marathon. So you got to decide early. So hopefully I'll be taking the left turn on that day.
Yes.
But I have been in the process of ramping up my times, my long runs. So I did 5 miles last weekend. I'm supposed to do 6 this weekend and kind of get my times in during the week. But I had a little adventure 2 weeks ago that I have felt very lucky to come out of it still running. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about it. My brother thinks I'm embellishing the size of the walnut that was on the street in front of me. I've called it a lacrosse ball size. He's like, "Are you sure?" It's made me want to drive back and see if it's still there. But I was doing great running on a neighborhood street in the neighborhood next to mine. Had a family with some dogs that were kind of walking. I was not running fast, but I was passing them. And then a car was coming the other direction. So I took my eyes off the road, as they say, kind of looked to the left, looked ahead. And at that time, my foot came down on this big walnut. And I, for the first time in my life ever, just kept going, fell hard on my hands and kind of my right hip. And just kind of laid there for a second. Folks came over and are like, "Are you okay?" And I just laughed. I said, "Yeah, I think I'm okay." Got up, stretched a little bit, kind of decided I could keep running and did, went home. That was great. Arms were all moving and working well. But as the day went on, my left arm got a little stiffer, got a little swollen around my elbow. And I thought, "God, I sprained my elbow. Dadgummit." Subsequently, I found out after consulting my neighbor, who's an orthopedist, and getting an x-ray, I have a tiny little radial head fracture, which heals itself. And he said to me, "You can keep running," which I have. And so I'm almost 2 weeks out from that and continue to run. And I'm doing a little physical therapy, my favorite thing ever, to kind of make sure I can keep my arm stretched out while it's healing. Yeah. So Michelle and I have talked about our injuries in the past, and we've had a number of them. And so I count my blessings that if this was the worst that came out of that fall, then I can keep going. But I didn't sprain my ankle, didn't break my wrist, didn't hurt my shoulder or my hip that I know of. And I think I would know by now. So I actually wrote a short little blog about it for my website blog, where I'm telling people about my running journey, and they're following along with me. And so I counted my blessings with that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if ever there was really like to point back to ups and downs of running, and a lot of the time the injury may not even be, I know you were out on a run, but it may not even be because of the run itself. And I had that experience. I sprained my ankle and had a foot injury, but I was weeding my garden and I just took a misstep and kind of rolled it, getting back up on my patio. It's just these sort of like dumb little things that come up, but it can take you out of the sport
Yeah.
for a while. So this is very lucky, and I'm very happy you're able to keep going.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my normal injuries can be even from ergonomics. It's like sitting too long or kind of sitting in the wrong way, lean this way, you know. So I know that there's many ways to kind of get your body out of alignment, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And these things can, at least in my experience, they can knock your confidence maybe just a little bit, and just, knock you off track from the plan that you had going into whatever goal it is. So maybe we could talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that, about confidence and yeah, and how to keep going with your training. I know you had some ideas about that to share with us.
Yeah, I would love to. That was before the injury, that was actually on my agenda to discuss. So it's really timely. And I think the confidence piece can play into the mindset of how you kind of think about this, as we talked about earlier. But when I work with folks with coaching, there are definitely some concrete strategies that you can use to look at where your confidence is, and then there are ways to try to increase it. So we can talk about that and see if how that applies here. There are, if you think about the rulers that you used back in elementary school to kind of mark things out, you can use that same type of ruler to determine how important something is for you, how much time you want to put into it, and then also your confidence. So if you have, 1 to 10 on that ruler, with 10 being the most confident ever and 1 being not at all, if you're trying to make a change or trying to do something, use that and think about, okay, where am I really? And put a number down. And so when I ask that question to folks I'm coaching, I say, where are you? And if they say, I'm at a 5, and I'm like, well, what does a 5 mean to you? So you really want to kind of have in your idea of what it takes to get to a 10. And there are ways, if you're not where you want to be, to think about how to improve that. So one is to think about what you know about yourself. And that's pretty broad, but it's what motivates you, what you've done in the past, where have you been successful, and how can you take that experience, those thoughts and feelings associated with that, and apply it to today. So maybe for you who have run several marathons, just knowing that you've done it before and that you've been successful ups your confidence that you can do it again. Even if you're going through, a different situation now, or you've had an injury and you're coming back from it, you've done it once. So it makes it more likely you can put in the work and get the result again.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even in that space. It may not be, you're looking at your first long distance, whatever that may be, and you're running, and you've never done that before, but you know that you have, put in the work and you've gone through this training program in school. You have been successful. You've proven to yourself that you can get things done when you apply yourself and put your mind to it. And so using those types of experiences can really help.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that doesn't even apply to you. So I think about as I was watching the Olympic marathon and we had our bronze medalist come across, is like, oh my gosh, how many folks were watching her saying, I want to do that, because she did it. That gives me inspiration to run myself, or maybe not that distance, but maybe I just want to get out and do something. So that living vicariously through other folks, or seeing people who are at the top of their game actually do what you want to do, is a good motivator as well. And a way to just slightly increase that confidence. You don't have to go from a 5 to a 10, but if you go from a 5 to a 7 because of something that, you've experienced and you can rely on that, then that really sets you up for actually achieving the goal that you want.
Yeah. Oh, those are great. I mean, all of those I can really think about and apply to running. And I also, I watched that Olympic marathon. I'm getting chills thinking about it. But yeah, if anybody hasn't, I mean, you don't need to watch the whole thing from start to finish, but maybe the last 10K, like the last 6.2 miles there. But the bronze medalist, her name is Molly Seidel. And she if you looked at the rankings of all of those runners going into that marathon, the numbers say she shouldn't have been in the top three. And it was a really hot day in Japan, and she went out there and she ran her own race and hung in there and yeah, came out with the bronze. It's just a really beautiful thing to watch anyway. So if you have 15-20 minutes, because she's flying, flying
Yeah,
across there.
and her scream at the end, just like, I did it, it's just, it's something that we all would love to have that experience in
Yeah,
some ways, in some part of our life.
exactly. Like we may not be running the 5 or 6 minute mile, but we can run our own race and run to our own finish. So yeah, but it's so
Yeah,
true.
I think that's a good words to live by. Run your own race, and you'll get there as well. It just may look a little different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I like the ruler analogy.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
that's really good. And it just gives you a minute to take stock of where you are and any kind of lifestyle change or fitness routine or whatever it is in terms of goal setting, to figure out where you are and where you want to go, and where you are on that scale is really important. So that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, thinking about, you're at a 5 and you want to get to a 10.
Mhm.
You're not going to do that with one thing. And so, just like I think we talked about this before, I know you've talked about this before with other people, is that in training, you don't go from 2 steps out the door to 26.1, 26.2. Sorry, I'm used to on the half marathon number. 26.2, you kind of build that up. And so every small little improvement increment that you kind of go a little bit further, again, making those small steps that turn into a longer pace, a longer amount, then that really helps build your confidence along the way.
Yeah, it
If
does.
you
It does. I think sometimes there's a fear of just not having covered the distance before. So you see this run coming up on the training plan and you haven't gone that far before. And so a lot of fear and doubt definitely come up. And so, like you said, to draw on experiences you've had before, hard things you've done before, training plans maybe that you followed before, but you haven't gone quite that far, but knowing that you have the tools there to be able to reach the distance you've been doing your training, you could walk, if you need to, things like
Mhm.
this help you to be able to keep going.
Yeah, I always had for my first half marathon, I kind of had the what if, like exactly that. If I know I can start, if I have to walk more than I think I am, I do a walk run strategy, then I can do it. I know what I need to do to finish by the time before they sweep me. So all those things, it just gives you a little bit of a buffer. So you've got some space there. And going back to kind of not having hit that distance before, I'd love to hear your strategy, because I've seen it both ways. So if you're doing your race is 13.1, there's some that say, kind of get up to that 11, 12 beforehand, and then make that longest run your actual race, which is what I do.
Mhm.
But I've also seen people say in training, overshoot that race amount when you're training, because of what you just said, that I know I've already done it. Race day's easy, but this is kind of my ramp down now. So
Yeah.
what works for you, and what have you seen with folks?
Yeah, those are two both schools of thought, and neither is correct or incorrect. It's sort of which one works better for you, knowing how your mind works and how your brain works. So
Mhm.
I have done it the first way. Before the first couple of half marathons, I did not cover the 13 miles before. I got up to about 10.
Mhm.
That was kind of where I cut things. And same with the marathon, I did not cover 26.2 miles before race day. So there is a bit of, especially with the marathon, a risk benefit in
Mhm.
terms of injury risk, the longer you're out there. So I kind of, when I'm working with an athlete, we look at what the long run pace is and what distance can reasonably be covered at that pace in about 2.5 to 3 hours. So I usually don't have people do more than a 3-hour long run. So whatever distance, depends on your pace, but that could be, 8 or 9 miles for a half marathon. It might be 15 or 16 miles if you're a faster runner. So it kind of depends where you fall on that pace range. But it's important to remember, for those of us who are more in the middle of the pack or the back of the pack, it's fine. And you do not have to cover that whole distance before race day, and still be very prepared for the race. So that's good. And
Good.
then,
Okay. So my way works.
you're fine. Yes, you're good. You're good. I'm trying to think what else, but yes, there are, I know several of the plans you can look at online. For example, Jeff Galloway and the Run Walk Run method. He usually has his runners try to cover the distance. And I think that is partly a mental fitness technique. Like you said, you can cover that distance. There's a little more leeway in terms of the long run if you're doing run walk. So you can be out there like that 3-hour time frame, you can go a little bit over, and the injury risk is mitigated a bit by the run walk. So it's sort of a balance, but yeah, definitely important to know that you don't have to cover the distance before race day. And so hopefully that takes some pressure off.
It does. And that's, I think for me, it's also been, whether I had like a little hiccup in my training and I had to pause for a week or two. And so I had to adjust it. And so maybe I had planned to try to get there, but like you said, I knew if I could get to 10, I could finish it out on race day. I may not be as fast during those last couple miles just because I just hadn't got there yet, but it usually worked for me. That, thinking about other things, if I may, that kind of help with confidence for me, that was it, kind of knowing that there was some flexibility in it, that if something just didn't go as planned, that I could pivot a little bit and still do it. Yep. I also relied heavily on supports from my physical therapist, who kind of kept me in alignment and helped me with these kind of different nagging things that came up along the way, and advice on whether to push through it or to take that rest time. And so I really like that. I like to run by myself. I think it's because I haven't really found someone that's kind of at the pace that I have, and also just gives me that, again, flexibility on the run. I can kind of do what I want or go faster or slower. But some people love having an accountability partner who runs with them, or running partner. And so I think having some of those things in place things about yourself, that really helped build your confidence that you're going to stick with this plan and actually do the race that you have as a goal for yourself. And then just, adding in all those different other supports that you need, whether it's getting enough sleep or having someone set out water bottles for you because you don't want to carry them, all those things that you just know, something that helps make it easier for you to train and to actually get to that race day. Those are things that will help you up your confidence that it's going to happen too.
Yeah, no, those are great. And definitely at the beginning of COVID, when all of the in-person races got canceled, I know a lot of us runners were struggling with what to do without a race on the calendar. And so a group of us who usually do the Run Disney races together, we signed up for a couple of virtual races kind of to keep ourselves accountable. But we signed up, we picked the date that we were going to run the challenge or run the distance, and that way, and we had a text group, to keep each other accountable across the miles. So that was kind of a fun thing. If you don't necessarily run with someone, or if you prefer to run by yourself, but if you have friends or family, you can bring them into the goal as well. So it's helpful.
Yeah, it's like signing up on race day for your significant person, whoever that may be, to kind of get updates on where you are. So you guys did that for yourself along the way.
Yeah.
I used to take my phone, and every time I'd see a mile marker, I'd like stop, take a picture, and send it to my husband, so he would know where I was. And then I had this kind of little thing of all these mile markers on my phone during the race. So it was a fun way to relive it at times.
Yeah, no, it is fun. You have to make it fun. And yeah, with the way things are with this pandemic, we might be looking at trying to keep ourselves running in this current situation a lot longer than we thought. So anything to
Mm.
keep the motivation up, motivation,
Yes,
support,
yes.
and confidence.
Yeah, if they would say running 2 miles a day keeps COVID away, I would run it 2 miles a day for sure. So maybe we'll figure that out along the way.
No, that would be amazing. For now, we mask. Yeah, and try
Yeah,
to stay
yeah.
active and try to keep ourselves healthy.
Yes, no matter what, keep yourself healthy because that's going to support you and your immune system and your brain as well along the way.
All right. Well, is there anything else, Dr. Marion? Did we hit all the points?
Yeah, I think we hit all the points. You actually kind of that accountability for me is signing up for a race. So you hit that one.
Okay.
And the last thing I will say is that if you're kind of struggling with that confidence, is to find somebody brainstorm a little bit. That's a really fun thing to do in coaching and just in general. So kind of
Yeah.
pick the brain of someone who's done it and say, "Gosh, I'm running into this. What works for you?" And so that's a perfect time to have a coach to hear what's worked for them, and also that they're very helpful to keep you motivated. I saw that you have a program, Couch to Confidence. And so I think it probably takes in a lot of these things that we're talking about, really makes them individual to the person. So just ask and try something out and see if that helps you move forward along your training plan.
Yeah, I love that. I like to tell people it's kind of like having me look over your shoulder a little bit, because you can print out the plan and put it on your fridge and check it off as you go. And, you can update me as you go along. So if you need that little piece of accountability,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on my website. I'll leave the link here below, but it'll get you started and hopefully keep going with a regular routine. So that's the goal.
Yeah, yeah. And for this training, I'm writing about it on my blog. It's really just kind of, hey, here's what I'm doing. I'll throw in a few things like we talked about, like the different strategies for walk run. Actually put a link to your blog or video on how to run in the heat. And so there's a few little pearls in there, or it may just be me talking about what's working for me, but it keeps me accountable because I know I've got to tell people what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
so that's another piece of that confidence for me, that I'm going to stick with what I plan.
I love that. Now, and tell us where we can find the blog and where we can find you.
Yeah, yeah. So the website is www.marion, and that's Marion hyphen wellness.com. And if you go under resources, that's where the blog is. And you can sign up to kind of get the blog sent to your inbox through email. But you can also go there and just check it out along the way. I've been trying to put out about one a week. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Marion McCrary Wellness. And so I usually try to post some of those links there as well if you are interested in seeing me there.
All
But
right.
thank you again for the opportunity to come back and talk about this. It keeps me going, and I hope that some of the things we've talked about have helped others feel like they can do it too.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to have you back and to kind of examine these things like as you're going through it, but then to look at it with a bigger lens, a wider lens.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.